I mean, my husband had $0 invested at the age of 32, and he's on track to become work optional at 45.
What?
Yeah.
Welcome to the Business Without Burnout podcast. I am so excited to have on an amazing financial expert and a dear client of mine, Soledad. Soledad, please introduce yourself to those who don't know you.
Hi, everybody. I'm Rita Soledad Fernández Paulino. You can call me Soledad. I'm a money and self-care coach for my company, Wealth Para Todos, where we focus on helping Black, Indigenous, people of color, women, and LGBTQ plus folk retire early by engaging in diverse self-care.
Amazing. What was the inspiration? Like, tell us how you got from where you were to this.
Yeah, well, I used to be a public school math teacher. And in 2019, I got sick. I was so sick that I had to take a medical leave and relied on disability checks. At that same time, my husband's company shut down, and we had 2 kids living in LA. And it was the first time in my life where I couldn't just work to make more money. I was sick. I just didn't have that option. And we were waiting as my husband secured a new job. The only income we had was fixed income from disability checks. And that's when I started to learn, and I created my first budget. Wow. And by learning about how to create a budget, that just became like a whole journey in learning more about financial literacy and retirement planning, financial planning, all stuff that I had not learned despite getting a master's at NYU.
Wow. Mm-hmm. Wow. I love what you said about how you were I don't love that it happened to you, but I love that you said that a huge lesson was how you couldn't rely on yourself making money at that point. Like at that point you had to get creative. Can you speak more to that and how that guides your vision for your company?
Yeah, well, I think it was hard because up until that point, I never really evaluated my spending. I never really looked at how I engaged with money. Mm-hmm. I just knew if I wanted money, I would, pick up some odd jobs. If I needed odd jobs, I would just to make more money. That was my focus. I was just increasing my income and to be able to cover the things that I wanted. Mm-hmm. But I wasn't thinking long term. I was only thinking about getting by today or getting the money for the trip that I wanted in a few months. When I started to get sick and created a budget and started to engage in financial planning and learning to be intentional with my money, I realized, well, it's a good skill to be able to always increase your income. But it's also a good skill to learn how to think beyond just the next 3 months with your money. And so when we talk about retiring and retiring early, that's like planning for 15 years.
Yeah. With
your money. Mm-hmm. And that has just really shaped and inspired me so much to help other people because I was somebody, my husband had $0 invested at the age of 32 and he's on track to become work optional at 45.
What?
Yeah.
Okay, we have to speak more about this. Hold on a second, because I'm 31 and I am, let me tell you a little bit of my story, okay? I'm 31. I was one of those people where I had a 9-to-5. I remember the retirement officer coming every single year and me being the only one that said no, because I was like, I don't know what you're doing with my money. Mm-hmm. I don't trust y'all.
My husband too.
I do not trust y'all. Opened a business, was making all this money. Everyone was like, you need to start your retirement. You're getting older, and I'm still young, but you're getting older. And I was just like, I don't know where that money's going. I'm scared of the stock market. I'm scared of all of it, which I'm sure is so classic,
yes.
Right? Especially,
yes.
Yeah. And so then I'm 31. Now I'm 31. I'm just now, I believe I started at 30 officially, but still very, very just started really. And I am like, could I be work optional by 45?
100%.
So you just giving that to people, I don't think you understand how huge that is. Can you
my
tell
whole
us?
thing is that I truly believe that someone can come my way and I could create a financial plan and put you on track to become work optional in 15 years. That's all it takes. 15 years. Give me 15 years, everybody.
Okay, so tell us about that. Tell us, because immediately my brain is saying, and I know the audience is saying, okay, give us 15 years, but what if it doesn't happen? What if I invest all this money and it doesn't happen? Or I'm scared of investing. Where do you start with people? Can we actually, let's just start with what is a Roth IRA? Because I know that's a huge part of what you're passionate about in its simplest terms.
It's an investment account.
Okay.
So just like you can go to the bank and open up a checking account or a savings account, you can also open up an investment account. The difference is that at a checking account or a savings account, the money's just sitting there. With an investment account, you are then buying assets in companies. You're choosing to invest in companies, and the companies start paying you money. And over time, your money starts making you lots of money. And the more money you have, the more you can invest, in which then the more money can come back to you.
I'm speaking from me 5 years ago, but what if the money doesn't grow?
Why wouldn't it grow? Okay, so that's something we have to understand, right? Like if it's not growing, you probably do not have it invested in assets. That sometimes happens. So people will treat an investment account as if it were a savings account. Now, it's also like what you choose in assets, right? The S&P 500 historically has a 10% rate of return. So if you were to just invest in an index fund that tracks the S&P 500, you will see that your money goes up. There will be years that you might have a 23% rate of return. And then you'll also have years where there's the decline, where it decreases. But over a 10-year span, the average is 10% or above. And so when you're investing, you're getting a 10% ROI on your money compared to if you're just keeping it in a savings account and it's not even a high yield savings account, then maybe you're getting like 0.5%.
Yeah. I remember something that really got me to finally start investing was I had a financial expert essentially tell me, if you lost everything in investments, like if everything went down and it crashed and burned and all the things, we'd have way bigger problems than that happening. Like basically money would mean nothing at that point. Like money wouldn't even matter at that point if everything fell apart.
Because that would mean that everyone else, the billionaires, all the, multimillionaires, everyone else who has a lot of money will have also lost all their money.
Yes. And I remember when someone told me that, I was like, oh, that finally clicked, where it's like, even if that were to happen, you would not be, scammed or out of, everybody would be struggling at that point. And so that was always so interesting to me. So, okay. What do you feel like, we started to kind of touch on it, but what do you feel like are the biggest myths or the biggest roadblocks for people? And what do you say to that when it comes to getting started with investing?
Well, I think about my husband, right? When I told him like, hey, I read about a Roth IRA, and he was like, that sounds sketchy. And I was like, it's just an account. We're not even talking about choosing the investments, but he thought that sounded so sketchy. And the thing is that Roth IRAs are a new type of investment account. They didn't become available until the 1990s when like Clinton was president, and he was like dealing with his affair. Okay. So I think that was already a time where people were not learning about this new legislation where now Roth IRAs are available. People are learning about everything that was happening with Clinton. So it didn't become familiar, it didn't become popular, right? This is why I always say I have to be the marketing team for Roth IRAs, because people don't know that these accounts exist. And what's specifically nice about a Roth IRA is that you invest money in there, and then when you pull it out at 59 and a half, you don't have to pay any taxes on it. So it grows tax-free, and then all that money is yours.
Yeah.
And it's important for people to think about, when they're investing, having money at retirement that is tax-free and that's also taxable. Like when you're investing in accounts, you want to make sure that you're reducing your taxes right now with traditional accounts, but also making sure that you have tax-free money at retirement with Roth accounts. Yeah. And so like the unfamiliarity, this is a whole new language. Yeah. And of course you're going to be, weary. That is normal. That is a very protective part, and we love that. We love you having your doubts and being skeptical. And at the same time, I just need people to understand, like Google S&P 500, see the map that shows up there, and see how over time, are there dips in the market? Yes, but it's always increasing. Yeah. And you'll see what would have happened if you had bought in 2020 and started to invest in 2020 when we did have a dip. And you'll see that now certain assets are twice the price, which means that if you had invested $100, bought $100 worth of assets, now you'd have $200. Yeah. Like it just doubles, right? And Oh, it's passive income. And it's like, we all want to make money while we're sleeping. We want to just have our money making us money. And the only way to truly do that is through the stock market.
Yeah.
So I think, it's normal for people to feel weary and doubtful. And it's important for us to increase our financial literacy and not stay there, right? For my family, I was the first one in my family to get a Roth IRA. And then I made sure my husband got a Roth IRA. And now I talk about it all the time. I truly believe it is like, learn how to invest in a Roth IRA, and it's just going to open up a whole new world for you. And I really get people like, once they're doing that, then you get excited and you start seeing your money make money. Then that's when people start thinking, wait, how much do I have to invest every year to retire at this age instead of the traditional retirement age?
Yeah.
And it's so fun.
I think I see so many people though that think, and I was like this too, that think, well, I have bigger fish to fry. I've got debt to pay off. I've got savings I have to build. What do you tell to those people?
Yeah, I mean, I have like these 10 stages of financial security, right? And so in the third stage of financial security, we're making sure, well, I'll even start with stage one. Stage one, you're using income and debt to pay for your expenses. That is already a level of financial security. The fact that you have a credit score or access to people that you could borrow money from, that is already level one stage of financial security. Stage two is that you're able to pay your expenses, but without debt. Stage three is that you're able to pay your expenses, but also maintain a checking account buffer. This is money that stays in your checking account that you don't have to dip into. It covers overdraft fees. It's just there as like your first layer of defense when unexpected things come up. Stage four, you're saving 1 month of your expenses or of your income. Stage five, we're starting to save your sinking funds. I am definitely somebody who believes that you need to save before you start worrying about paying off debt. The reason why we keep getting into debt is because we don't have cash reserves set aside. So stage five, we start learning about sinking funds. Stage six, that's when we start paying high interest debt and making extra payments towards high interest debt, anything that's above 9%. Stage six is when we start making sure that we're investing 5%, and then stage 7, 10%. We start increasing, where by stage 10, you're working because you want to, not because you have to. You have a checking account buffer, a fully funded emergency fund. You're able to cover all of your expenses just from your investments. And so I walk clients through those steps. And when you have, okay, well, this is good, and this second step is good, and there's a path, when you start to feel the progress, it's contagious.
Yeah.
And you just like, you want to go fast. And I see, sometimes clients come to me. Recently, I had a client who came to me and she was like, I want to retire yesterday.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, let's start looking at the plan. And I said, in our time together, the goal is going to be for you to get to the 9th stage of financial security. This is somebody who had been saving money but had not been investing it. And so they had money in all these places. And just from 3 sessions, we are already have them on track to getting into the 9th stage of financial security in 3 sessions. Just because now she has clarity of where her money's going to go and how it could continue to grow.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
But it's like, we don't have that direction. And I think a lot of times when I say like, work because you want to, not because you have to, or become work optional, people don't understand like that. It just feels so impossible. And it felt that way for me too. I remember thinking like, well, I live in California. I live in LA.
Yeah.
It's expensive. I have 2 kids. My husband is a Black Dominican. I have a trans child. There's certain things like I have to stay living in California just for my child's rights. So I thought like, it can't happen. And then I thought, okay, well, what if it could? What would I have to get good at?
Yeah.
And that's where I have like different frameworks.
Yeah. And I love your roadmap. I love how clear it is. You also talk a lot about diverse self-care. Can you talk about that framework and what that is?
Yeah. So diverse self-care is an acronym for the 7 types of self-care that keep us in the wealth building cycle. I came up with that acronym when I started working with clients, and I saw that I had some clients that in 6 months were able to pay off $12,000 of debt, and some clients who are able to pay off $36,000 of debt. And both we can say like, wow, that's amazing. But I was like, I want everybody to like 10x their investment. Why aren't more people able to pay off $36,000 of debt? Why isn't everybody maxing out their employer retirement account? And so I started to look at my clients, and I saw the differences in self-care practices. And I saw that my clients who were able to make these huge jumps were engaging in at least 4 types of self-care on a daily basis. And it kept them in their zone of resilience, which then allowed them to be in this wealth building cycle. And the wealth building cycle is where you know your numbers, you're developing your financial literacy, you're aware of your money thoughts, and you're increasing your income. That's how we build wealth. We got to just stay in that little cycle. Diverse self-care keeps you in the cycle. And I mean, I could get into like the 7 types. Do you want to?
Yeah, feel free.
Okay. So the 7 types of self-care start with dinero self-care. That's the D. In dinero self-care, you are intentional about everything around money. Interpersonal self-care has to do with your relationships. Vocational self-care is the boundaries that you set in terms of your career and your employer. The first E is emotional self-care, everything that has to do with your mental health. Then restorative body self-care, your ability to nurture your physical health. Spiritual self-care, which has to do with your ability to build trust and have faith. And finally, environmental self-care, which is your ability to manage your surroundings and make sure you're living in a pleasant area. I saw that those 7 areas were impacting clients at different times. So fights with the husband, fights with a mom, getting sick, dealing with different health issues, feeling so anxious and feeling like you have to control everything because there's a part of you that struggles with like surrendering because of lack of spiritual self-care practices, or being someone who's not tidy and then you're always losing stuff and your car gets messy. You know, all these things were impacting people's ability to then do dinero self-care and everything related to increasing their financial security.
My favorite part of what you mentioned was the zone of resilience, because I have found myself feeling like it's easy to burn out with money management and figuring out, you know, whether it's, I know for myself personally, I went through a whole tax thing recently last year where taxes were all messed up and I had to do all of this financial management and this financial work just to like get myself to baseline there. And then from there, you don't want to, you know, go into wealth building or things like that because you're like, can I just take a break? Can I just spend some money? Can I just have some fun? Like, it's very easy to get burned out. So when you mentioned zone of resilience and needing those self-care practices, I was like, oh yes, I can totally see where if you are not feeling resilient in your life, it's going to be very hard for you to be in a wealth building cycle where you want to actually do the work to build wealth. And, you know, of course it can be easy, but sometimes it can be hard depending on your financial situation.
No, I don't think it's ever easy.
Yeah.
I think we live in a cis, hetero, patriarchal, capitalist society, and it is hard.
Yeah.
It is hard to build wealth here. This is not a country where it is meant for everybody to have financial security.
Yeah.
Especially the marginalized people that I work with.
Yeah.
There's literally been so much legislation that impacts people's financial security and what is accessible to them. If we cared about people having, you know, financial security, we'd have universal health care.
Yeah.
People would have access to quality, affordable health care. There would be quality, affordable child care. Yeah. Right? These are things that would increase people's zone resilience. This would increase people's resilience. Yeah. But we don't have that. So it is hard and it's challenging, and we have to be so intentional about how we engage in diverse self-care and also how we use money as a tool to support our wellness. When I work with clients, the first thing I have them do this exercise where it's called price out your peace. And we're looking at from spending no dollars to lots of dollars on your self-care. Yeah. And being very intentional about your proactive self-care expenses, because no budget is sustainable if you're not using money as a tool to support your wellness. Yeah. And that's like number one thing. And so some of my clients come to me and they're like, they're really good savers, but they don't know how to spend with joy. Yeah. And I tell them, you're not going to be on this journey to try to retire early in 15 years. You will burn out. Yeah. How do we make sure you don't burn out? You enjoy spending your money on a weekly basis.
Yeah. My last question for you that I feel like our listeners on the Business Without Burnout podcast would appreciate is, how are you avoiding burnout as a business owner, community leader, advocate in your own business? Because you have a big vision, you have a lot of work to do. How are you avoiding burnout? And also, you mentioned like you're a parent, you have a lot on your plate.
It's diverse self-care, everybody. It is. Yeah. I create a diverse self-care plan. On the most stressful, busiest weeks, I know the one thing to ground myself is by literally writing out what my diverse self-care practices are going to be for that day.
Beautiful.
And I just know that if I'm engaging in at least 4 of them on a regular basis, then I will stay in my zone of resilience.
Amazing.
And every single time in my life where I'm not somebody who navigates burnout so much. Now I just get a little crispy, but never burn out. But when I start to feel a little crispy, that's when I'm like, ooh, time to like really focus on nurturing myself and nourishing myself again. And so it's like, I'll play in terms of, you know, expanding my comfort zone, expanding how much I'm working. I'll play with that, but I'm also very like taking time to reflect on how does this feel on my body and choosing to always nourish myself. I think scarcity will have us thinking that we have to keep pushing and push through and push through. That discipline is something that's so like rough and hard, when really it's like, no, it can be very soft. It's about being accountable to yourself and showing up for yourself, and that builds self-trust.
Beautiful. Tell people where they can find you.
Everybody, I would love to connect with you. Feel free to message me on Instagram at Wealth Para Todos. Check out my website, wealthparatodos.com, and you can subscribe to my email list. I also have a podcast called Wealth Para Todos, Financial Security Through Self-Care. Just Google Wealth Para Todos, okay? I'm on various different platforms, and I would love to connect with you.
Thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Thank you for having me.